So I think that the way that this part can work is that since we actually have an organization that is going through or has gone through aspects of the process and is going to continue to evolve or continue their development in this process, it'd be good is to talk a bit. And so we have a volunteer, and I'm going to ask a lot of questions. This is kind of like my Oprah moment, so just be prepared. I'm not giving away cars.
I mean, I'm going to sell a lot of books after we're done. That's good. We get on Oprah, we sell a lot of books. Everybody makes money on Oprah.
I just want to lose weight.
I could afford to lose a couple pounds.
Okay, so I put a couple of questions together, and then feel free to add any questions, and for you all to add questions too that you might have. So the first one kind of goes back to the earlier question around target audience. And so why did your company decide to become an early adopter of the registry to self-attest? And then what value does your company expect from the process?
So as I mentioned, a little bit during the talk, we first got deeply involved back in 2013 timeframe. We were in the architecture stages of what we wanted our electronic ID product to look like. And we went after our first NSTIC grant actually that year. So we were awarded a grant in 2014, in August of 2014. And a lot of our efforts around architecting the solution, they came together actually during the grant process, if you can imagine that. As it kind of walks you through from the shallow end to the deep end of the pool, if you will, where the way that the NIST process works is, in the early part of the year, you'll put together a 4-page abbreviated proposal of what your solution is going to look like. And so, we had our notion of how the product was going to work and all that. And we certainly had enough to do a good job of a 4-pager. And then as we developed along and we became finalists, obviously the rigor increases. And so where did we take our cues from? We took them from NSTIC. We took them from the protocols, from the principles themselves. So naturally, we built all around the principles as we developed deeper and deeper understandings of what we wanted our product to be. So what that means now is that flash forward a few years later, we've invested millions in the principles. Our whole solution is built around the principles themselves and ultimately what is represented in the framework. So it's an easy decision for us to want to register because I want the world to know that we did that. And we also want to apply pressure to the rest of the industry to say that this is the direction to go so that I'm preserving the investment we made. I would never want to invest my money on a tangent and find out that I built X and the market wanted Y. So we're kind of all in on X, and we want everybody to follow to know that we're doing the right thing. And also, of course, we believe in it, and we think it's marketable. That mark, that registered, logo that you saw, I want that on our website. I want that on our product. I want it in our apps. I want people to see it and recognize it, and ultimately, I want our company to be part of really solving the problem, and that's our way of representing it to everybody.
So then before I go to my next question that I shared with you, kind of going back to the NSTIC principles in itself, have you run into prospective customers or RFPs where they mention anything around the NSTIC principles so far?
Not super directly, but I did just see a state issue an RFP that was really kind of interesting. It was state of Ohio. So state of Ohio had an RFP that was just out a little while ago where they asked for a lot of things it was mostly in the context of FICAM, and they mentioned Kantar Initiative, they mentioned Safe Biopharma, and they were looking for things to grab onto. My interpretation of the RFP is that they wanted something proven that they could grab onto and know that they were buying the right thing. So they kind of asked for everything they kind of ever heard of. I'm sure they wouldn't like me to say it that way, but they looked for things that they thought were proven, and a lot of them were federal.
Yeah.
And so.
And it was a state.
It was a state environment RFP. So this is going to be for things like accessing benefits online and things like that. They want to get more citizen services online, and so they're looking for solutions from the market that came with those kinds of pedigrees. Mm-hmm. So I think if we had maybe had our registry out 6 months ago and there had been kind of our launch fanfare, maybe they would have asked for someone that was registered with the IDEF.
So just as if I look at the last 6 months of RFPs that we've received, even on the commercial side for LexisNexis, I've had 3 that called out INSTIC principles. And I thought that was
That's
really
fantastic.
exciting, especially because it wasn't a government agency. I think that government agencies, I expect for federal and state to start to say it more. But I had 3 commercial organizations that said, are you doing anything with INSTIC principles? And I was just like smiling, going, that's awesome. They actually understand the importance of trying to incorporate that into their process. And they didn't have a requirement. They just wanted to understand if we knew that this was going on and what we were doing about it. So, second question is, tell us a little bit about the process or solutions that you all have assessed. Is it only the ones that you did through the INSTIC pilot, or are you looking at others?
Well, we don't really have a line of demarcation between the pilots and our production service.
Oh, okay.
So as we go live, we bring everybody up. They're going to be going live on the production platform. So obviously it'll iterate because it's a service. It's not a delivered piece of software. So we are attesting to that service. Mm-hmm. What I liked in what I heard from David Keltz, who's our chief architect. He's kind of my partner in crime on this. We kind of a two-headed monster on this, I guess. Where he has been really the driver behind how we've architected all of this, and then we kind of help each other out on the business side because he understands it very well at the same time. So what we've done, what he's explained to me through his experience so far, is that he was happy that he wasn't put through a one-size-fits-all process, right? So at the very outset, who we are as a unique entity with our unique product, once we answer the questions to kind of get ourselves set up, our path through the registration is very much catered to who we are and what we do, rather than, like you heard from Mary, having a bunch of NAs all over the sheet. Mm-hmm. So from that perspective, we were impressed. The other thing I think that's impressive, and I urge you all, if you're thinking about it, having the concierge is a really nice opportunity because there's somebody on the other end of the line to kind of help walk you through, help you interpret it, help you understand exactly what it is that you're being asked for, so that you can go ahead and satisfy what's being put in front of you.
Okay, so you're not just going to have like your website go through the process. You're selecting particular solutions.
Right. And I think, I don't want to speak for everyone, but that's what I'd encourage most of you to do is, for us, our biggest play in this area is our electronic ID product. And it's a federated identity. It's something that any individual in one of our participating states with a state-issued driver's license or a state-issued identity card can participate in. And that's the product that we really felt strongly needed to have this kind of backing to it, because it's really designed for the consumer. And then that credential, once it's created, is built to interoperate with relying party websites and anybody else that wants to leverage it. So having that thing really tight and having it trustworthy was really important. We may do the website someday, but we don't really transact through our website so much. It's more content delivery. Mm-hmm. And not that there's not value in that, but we don't hang a lot of content out there that's terribly sensitive.
Right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the assessment process itself. So who in your company was involved, and how long has this process taken? And the reason why I'm asking that is that LexisNexis is considering trying to go through the process as well.
None of your business, then go figure it out for yourself.
And it's hard to have all the right people involved, or to know who the right people are and to be involved. And every time I try to punt it to somebody else, they're afraid of the process, in all honesty. And so it's great to be able to turn to you and just ask, so who was involved in your process? It sounds like you had David Keltz as a point person.
David Keltz is the point person, so we both signed up together and said, we'll take this on together, but we wanted David to be the point. He's the most technically aware of the guts of the solution, so he's going to be best equipped to answer the questions in the context of the framework. I've been looking after it from a bigger business perspective as far as an initiative of the company. So I've got some very specific things that I care about directionally where this thing is going from a privacy perspective, how I want it to be perceived by the marketplace, and ultimately what I want the product to be in. Between the two of us, we wrestle all the time. So we figured if we put him lead and I could back him up, That'll allow us to both get through the process efficiently. It'll also give us a check and balance to make sure that, if David can't get the lawyers to pay attention, well, then I can jump off the top rope and go get the lawyers to pay attention, right? Do something like that to make sure the right resources are aligned.
Is there a lot that the lawyers have to do in this?
Well, I think that if you're going to go out there in the marketplace and you're going to sign yourself up to following the rules of the game, your lawyers are going to want to know what you're doing. They're not going to let you go sign that check without them looking over your shoulder. So David's job really, and whoever you assign as your point, really needs to have access to your engineering organization, to your business people, your marketing folks, your UX team, and your lawyers to make sure that they can go get the answers to all the questions that they might have on the back of the things that they're being asked to attest to. Mm-hmm. They are going to need help, and having them on a short leash is important. And then having some executive level support to make sure everybody has to pay attention in a timely way is nice too.
So you brought up marketing. The end goal is, or the end result of this process, once you've assessed the solutions, is that you're going to get this IDEF registered mark that you can then put on your site. So what did your marketing team think about that?
Marketing team loves it. I mean, anything that allows you to differentiate in this space right now is awesome. And we don't have a lot of those things really out there yet. So it's timely, for us. We'd like our apps to have this mark in them, and nice. We'd like to, advertise what it means, so over time, I really see us hanging our hat on this registration, in a big way. And obviously we encourage the IDESG to continue to push out there the messages as well so that we can get some value out of it from the other side. But having something you can put out there that people can trust, sometimes internally, this is going to be the wrong analogy, but I like to use it anyway because people get it. When people ask me about what this is inside the company, I tell them it's Angie's List for identity, right? And technically it's a little different, and then, Angie's List has got a different model, but at the end of the day, it's something you can go look at and say, oh, all right, if I hire the plumber, he's not gonna steal money from me, right? He's not gonna show up on the first day and not come back for 6 more. I can trust these purveyors of this solution, and ultimately, there's not a lot of that out there right now, so we want to be part of it.
So that's
very
actually
marketable.
I think that's actually an interesting analogy because Angie's List works 2 ways, right? You as the plumber get to kind of do a self-attestation. But me, as the customer that hired you, also assesses you. I use Angie's List a lot because I break a lot of stuff at home. So do you think that in an evolution of this is that we also will have that feedback loop of the parties that are using you and the consumer? You said that in the end, like the EID solution was really targeted to the consumer in the end. So do you think that consumers will want to look for something like this? And
I think the consumers right now are blind. I think consumers now have some of the same expectations that I talked about earlier. If you don't tell me otherwise, I expect that I'm being stolen from. I expect my PII to be on the move. I expect anything that's not locked down on my phone to be taken. Unless someone comes out and otherwise makes a claim, I expect that I don't have a lot of control. So I think the consumers are looking for control. And, one of the things that I was happy about with the last round of NSTIC grants was that there was actually a push in that grant process to look for examples that would drive consumer demand for strong authentication. So I think that all kind of blends in here that there is a public that wants better, they just don't know how to get it. And not a lot of people are willing to give it to them. Right. So this is kind of, again, a beacon, right, that people can look to. And if we advertise it right and people become familiar with the brand properly, they'll know that, this is, good housekeeping.
And do you have any recommendations so far through this process for the IDESG? As you all have gone through this, anything that you all would say is feedback that you'd give?
I think first of all, the IDESG is to be applauded for taking a very hands-on approach to the first registrations. I thought, doing a concierge was brilliant. Having somebody there to hold your hand as you go through. So this is first for us too, right? It's the first time we've had this registration process, the first time we've had the site up. We've obviously got user experience experts involved, so that helped us quite a bit, having folks like Mary and her team around. But that was starting the right way. Now it's all about listening, right? So go through this process, listen to the feedback, incorporate it, and maybe the concierge service is a long-term service we'll always have. Maybe it retires for something that's more interactive that the website can do on its own, that's more self-service. I don't know, but I like the way that we started because we started in a way that has our ears open all the time. And we'll be able to adjust and make sure that the longevity of the registry is built from the ground up the right way. So for right now, it's keep your ears open is the suggestion I think I have for the group.
And then what about suggestions or recommendations for organizations like LexisNexis that are considering it but haven't quite started the process yet, or anyone else in the room where they think that it might be applicable to them?
Well, first is if you're involved in the IDESG and you haven't put your hand up in the air yet to attest, I got to ask why, right? This is the whole point. This is the whole point of the whole thing from the get-go, was to raise the bar, shine lights on the things that were important, and then drive the industry to adopt them. So if you're part of the mix, if you're part of this, you really should be going back and urging your organization to take a look. And it may not be applicable to everything that you do, but there's probably a product or service or group of them that would benefit from registration. And I think you should consider being granular. I don't know if Mary agrees with me or not, but I would consider being granular about each specific product or service or area, so that people know exactly where they should expect the principles to be in play and where they shouldn't.
So every member of the IDESG should go through the process?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you've got a service or you have a website that people log into, I think the rule of thumb is this: if you interact with human beings through the internet, you should be doing this, because there's no reason why those interactions shouldn't be protected and following the best practices and what the standard's all about. Think of all your retail relationships, your eBays, your Amazons, your Target.coms. Everybody uses Target, but those are websites that I would ordinarily have to log into. Someday they're going to accept federated identities. Someday they're going to allow third-party authentication tools to be used. We all know it's going that way. Every one of those relying party websites should be registered. They should be attesting. They should be standing by these principles and protecting their customers. And customers should learn to expect to see that level of protection. They should recognize the mark, and they should see it, and they should know that those that they choose to do business with are doing the right things with their PII.
So I think that means our concierge is going to be very busy.
I hope so. Maybe we'll need multiple concierges. What's the plural of concierge?
Yeah. So let me see if there's anybody in the room that has any questions that they might want to ask someone who's actually, or an organization that's actually gone through the process. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Sal?
Yeah, so how about just an overall level of effort, Mark? Could you give me something to help?
My expectations were set that it's probably, duration 4 or 5 days of work, on and off.
That's not bad.
I wasn't set with an expectation any longer than that, and that's not sitting down every day from start till dusk. That's intermittently coming back to it and leaving it, and that again is with the help of a concierge. I don't know if anybody in the room has got a better number than that. I'm going from my feedback, what I've read through the emails, and talking to David about what his expectations are. But that's what I expect is about 4 or 5 days of duration. And then, subset of that actually doing the work. Yeah.
How about from your legal department, Mark? In the sense of, you're a relatively large organization with a serious legal department. How did they respond to the various documents that you sent?
So far, so good. I mean, they're not completely finished yet, but so far, so good. their biggest thing is they want to make sure that we're not making claims that we can't substantiate. So that is going to be part of the work. When I talked about having David having that ability to reach out to any one of those constituencies within the company and have them respond quickly, that's going to be key. You almost have to have like a little tiger team ready to go between engineering, legal, architecture, marketing, business, so that we can get those answers done quickly. Because as soon as you go to legal and say, I want to say I fully comply to this or I'm fully implemented, they're going to ask you 10 questions to prove that you're fully implemented before you go out there and make that statement on behalf of the company. So they're going to want to look at you, they want to look at your engineering folks and say, all right, he says yes, do you guys agree? So you're going to have a little tiger team there that the legal folks can get that backup to your answers before you get going.
Okay.
You're not going to do it by yourself. You're going to have to get your organizational support behind it.
All right, so this has actually motivated me.
Okay.
So by the end of July, because I can't do it in the next couple of weeks, but by the end of July, I will make sure that LexisNexis goes through the process.
Hey, look at that.
So I need other people to kind of do the same thing now.
Yeah, man.
We're all going to stand up and do it.
Better late than never, Kim. It's good. So take your time. It's all right. No.
Other questions, comments? None? So it sounds like it's not that bad. Not that bad. Listen to me. It's look, I'm just trying to be realistic about it.
No, it's
But I
effort.
mean, it's a process that has effort that you have to do. And the great part is that it's a very clear process. And then there's help, right? Because you have a concierge to help you. And then there's also early adopters that you can kind of rely on as well to kind of understand, what you're going to go through. So it seems like a really good time now to get started with it. And then we can help pull more organizations through.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned earlier when we were sitting off to the side, the plenary meeting is going to start here tomorrow, or the day after, I guess. So all the rest of the IDESG cavalry is going to roll into town, right? Yeah. And if you've got questions, you want to hear more about it, sit in. I think we have another session like this scheduled where David Keltz will actually be here and talk firsthand about his experience, but more of the organizations that have been a part of the early self-attestations will be here.
Yeah,
and
I think
you'll
3
get that
organizations are going to be a part of that conversation. So that way you can hear the experience from multiple organizations.
Yeah, and ask all the questions you want, but you should be able to pop in later on in the week and hear a little bit more, or just stop people in the hallway. We're all going to be wearing pins and buttons and things that, show that we should be able to give you some information about this. But I would, to Kim's point, as you leave, consider the timing of this. I think that, again, the group was really smart to put together the concierge approach to walking the first groups through. That's something to think about taking advantage of, right? Time's of the essence. That service is available. If you're thinking about stepping up, I would say it's always better to be part of the firsts, right? We wanted to be first because I'm a maniac like that, and I like to be first. But that's where you get the most help. So waiting a year is, maybe that's the right timing for you. But if you can, you should be thinking about going sooner than later. Get all the help you can.
All right, check in again. Any more questions? Well, thank you all for your time.
All right, thanks.
Well, thank you, Kim. Thank you, Mark. That was fantastic. Thank you, folks. We really appreciate you being here today. That is the end of our workshop. So thank you. If you have any questions, happy to field them. We'll all be milling about here for a little bit, so please feel free to come up and talk to us. I highly recommend that you come and visit us at our websites, IDESG.org, if you want to come and participate in the committees and help us build the product and find out what's the next chapter for the framework. IDEFregistry.org if you want to actually self-attest. So with that, thank you very much and look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you.